General Motors plans to close its plant in Lordstown, Ohio.
General Motors temporarily shutting down more than half of its plants in North America.
It started with a whisper inside General Motors. Then it became a warning. Now it is turning into one of the most dangerous mechanical failures the company has faced in decades. What was supposed to be the crown jewel of GM's next generation of trucks and SUVs has instead become the source of a billion-dollar nightmare. Engines are failing, assembly lines are going silent, dealers are overwhelmed, and behind closed doors, executives are scrambling to contain a crisis that threatens far more than a single product line. This is not a normal recall story. This is not a routine manufacturing error. This is a systems collapse, one that began inside the microscopic layers of metal deep within an engine block, but is now rippling outward into factories, supply chains, financial markets, and even global trade. What makes this story so alarming is not just the technical flaw itself, but how quickly it has exposed hidden weaknesses across General Motors' entire operation. The engine at the center of this storm is the L87 6.2-litre V8, a power plant used in some of GM's most profitable and high-profile vehicles, including the Chevrolet Silverado, GMC Sierra, Cadillac Escalade, Yukon, Tahoe, and Suburban. These vehicles were marketed as symbols of durability, power, and long-term reliability. Instead, owners are now reporting sudden breakdowns, engine lockups, and catastrophic failures at mileage levels that should have been routine for any modern drivetrain. Inside GM, the problem is being treated as far more than a warranty issue. Analysts estimate that the cascading costs from engine replacements to plant disruptions and legal exposure could exceed $1 billion. And that figure may only represent the first wave. Because when a company as large as General Motors begins to stumble, the consequences rarely stop at its own doors. Drivers will feel it through higher prices and delayed repairs. Workers will feel it through production slowdowns and job uncertainty. Investors will feel it through shaken confidence, and competitors are already moving fast to capitalize on the chaos. This is the story of how a defect too small to see with the human eye triggered a chain reaction large enough to shake one of the world's biggest automakers. And what comes next may reshape the future of the entire industry. Real quick, if you're into videos that cut through the noise and break things down clearly, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find this. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's a good time. We've got more deep dives coming your way. Also, drop a comment and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your take. Now onto the video. The first sign that something was terribly wrong did not come from a broken down truck on the side of the road. It came from inside a testing room most people will never see. A place where engines are evaluated long before they ever reach a customer. A place designed to catch defects early, quietly, and safely. And yet, this time, the warning arrived too late. The L87 V8 was undergoing a routine but critical procedure known as the pico vibration test. This test is designed to detect microscopic imbalances inside rotating engine components. It does not look for visible cracks or leaks. Instead, it listens for subtle vibrations that signal internal inconsistencies, the kind that eventually grow into major mechanical failures. Engineers expected the L87 to pass with ease. On the surface, everything looked perfect. The metal was clean, the pistons were unscarred, the lubrication channels were smooth. By all visible standards, this was a pristine power plant. Then the data appeared on the screen. The vibration graph spiked violently into failure territory. Not gradually, not marginally, instantly. The readings were so extreme that the test software flagged the unit as unfit within seconds. Engineers stared at the results in disbelief. This was not a borderline case. It was a total rejection of an engine that should have passed. At first, some suspected a faulty sensor. Others questioned whether the testing equipment had malfunctioned. But when additional engines were run through the same procedure, the same pattern appeared. Time after time, brand new engines were failing at birth, before ever reaching a vehicle, before turning a single mile on the road. That moment changed everything inside GM's engineering division. Because an engine that fails during real-world use can be isolated, repaired, and explained. But an engine that fails before it is even installed points to something far more dangerous, a flaw in the manufacturing process itself. The implications were enormous. If the defect was present at this early stage, it meant that hundreds of thousands of engines already produced could be compromised. It also meant that the problem was not random, it was systemic. What made the discovery even more disturbing was how invisible the defect was. To the naked eye, the engine looked flawless. Nothing appeared out of place. Nothing suggested that this machine was already condemned. Yet, hidden within the metal itself, something was deeply wrong. As engineers began tearing down the failed units and analyzing their components under magnification, they uncovered the first clue to a problem far more complex and far more costly than anyone had imagined. And that clue would lead them into the microscopic world where this billion-dollar disaster truly began. When engineers moved from vibration data to physical inspection, they expected to find a major machining error, a warped crank, a cracked bearing, something obvious. Instead, they found something far more dangerous, a defect so small it could not be seen without magnification, yet powerful enough to destroy an entire engine. The investigation centered on the crankshaft journals, the polished surfaces that ride on a thin film of oil. These surfaces must be nearly perfect. Even microscopic peaks can scrape away lubrication, creating friction that compounds with every rotation. To evaluate this, engineers measured two values: Ra, the average surface roughness, and RZ, the height between the highest peaks and lowest valleys. At first glance, the Ra numbers looked acceptable. They suggested smooth machining, well within tolerance. But when the team examined the RZ values, the truth emerged. The peaks and valleys were wildly inconsistent. In other words, the surface looked calm from a distance, but resembled jagged mountains when viewed up close. These micro-ridges disrupted the oil film that normally protects moving parts. Instead of gliding, metal began to scrape metal. Every rotation removed microscopic layers from the bearing surface. Over time, this created grooves that grew deeper with each mile, accelerating wear that no driver could hear or feel until it was too late. The flaw revealed a breakdown in GM's machining controls. The equipment had produced components that met average standards, yet violated critical peak tolerances. This meant the manufacturing process was not merely flawed, it was misleading. Engines passed inspections that should have failed, allowing compromised units to move through the system undetected. By the time the data reached management, the damage was already unfolding in the field. Vehicles that left factories weeks earlier were now carrying engines designed to self-destruct. And as devastating as this discovery was, it represented only half of the disaster. Because the flawed surface was not acting alone, when that damaged metal met flowing oil, the real catastrophe began. The second phase of the investigation exposed a failure even more alarming than the surface defects. Engineers discovered that the oil flow geometry inside the L87 crankshaft was fundamentally flawed. Specifically, the chamfers, the beveled edges cut into the journals to guide oil, were oversized. These chamfers were intended to improve lubrication, but instead, they allowed oil to escape sideways rather than form a stable protective film. Every rotation bled oil away faster than the system could replace it. This created a cycle of microscopic oil starvation. Pressure would briefly collapse, then surge, then collapse again, thousands of times per mile. On a properly machined surface, such fluctuations are manageable, but on the jagged surfaces found in the L87, these pulses became destructive. When failed engines were disassembled, inspectors found bearing marks shaped like ripples. These were not random scars. They were evidence of oil films collapsing and reforming in dangerous patterns. The lubrication system was fighting a battle it could not win. The design flaw meant that no amount of assembly precision or high-quality oil could compensate. The geometry itself was forcing failure. Worse still, this defect was buried deep within early production units. Engines failed without warning, locking up suddenly and leaving drivers stranded. Reports began arriving from the field, vehicles with only a few thousand miles suffering catastrophic breakdowns. Technicians were stunned. The failure patterns defied expectations for modern powertrains, and as service departments logged case after case, the scale of the disaster became undeniable. When the findings reached GM's upper engineering leadership, panic followed, because the company was no longer facing a repair issue. It was facing a structural collapse in one of its most important engine programs. When the final internal reports reached GM's executive offices, the tone of the crisis changed overnight. What began as a technical anomaly was now a threat to the company's core identity. The engine division had long been a source of pride. It represented reliability, performance, and engineering excellence. Now it was the epicenter of a billion-dollar risk. Emergency meetings stretched late into the night. Executives reviewed pages of data, detailing machining inconsistencies, oil flow failures, and mounting field reports. Every slide raised a new question. How many vehicles were affected? How long had the defect gone unnoticed? And how quickly would the public find out? One faction argued for an aggressive recall strategy, fearing legal consequences if the company delayed. Another group warned that acknowledging the full scale of the problem could trigger investor panic, and damaged the stock price. The debate grew heated because both sides understood what was at stake. This was not just about replacing engines, it was about protecting GM's future development timelines. Critical programs relied on the L87 platform. If production stalled, it would ripple across multiple model lines. As executives weighed their options, one reality became clear. The crisis was no longer contained within engineering. It was moving outward, into factories, communities, and financial markets. And the first sign of that shift came not from a press release, but from silence on the production floor. The shutdown did not arrive with sirens or announcements. It arrived with silence. Inside factories that normally roared with movement, the sudden stillness felt unnatural. Conveyor belts stopped mid-motion. Tools hung idle. Half-assembled engines sat frozen in place. Workers looked at one another, unsure whether to speak, afraid of what the quiet meant. Supervisors moved down the aisles with tight expressions, offering only brief explanations. Temporary pause. Supply issue. We're waiting for instructions. But no one believed the words. Everyone on the floor understood what an unplanned shutdown truly signaled. Something had gone terribly wrong. For many of these workers, the plant was more than a job. It was a legacy. Families had built their lives around the promise of steady production. Generations had passed through the same doors, trusting that the company's stability would protect them. Now that stability was in question. Rumors spread quickly. Some said the engines were defective. Others whispered about a recall. A few feared layoffs. The uncertainty felt heavier than any physical burden. People thought about mortgages, tuition, medical bills, and futures that suddenly felt fragile. The silent line was not just a pause in production. It was a pause in certainty. Every minute the machines remained still. The weight of unanswered questions grew, and as workers waited for clarity, the impact spread beyond the factory walls. Because every plant sits at the center of a vast web of suppliers who depend on its rhythm to survive. When that rhythm breaks, the shock travels fast. Suppliers were the next to feel the impact. Across dozens of states, casting facilities, machining shops, and logistics hubs received the same notice. Production had slowed or stopped. Shipments were delayed. Orders were frozen. Managers scrambled to adjust schedules that had been calibrated to the minute. Forklifts idled beside stacks of unfinished components. Pallets piled up at loading docks. Welding crews waited for parts that would not arrive. Every disruption cut into already narrow margins. For small suppliers, even a short pause threatened survival. Their contracts depended on consistency. Without it, cash flow dried up quickly. Some began planning furloughs they hoped would be temporary. Others sought emergency loans just to keep the lights on. Dealerships soon felt the strain as well. Service bays overflowed with vehicles. Tow trucks lined up before sunrise. Customers arrived angry, confused, and desperate for answers. Engines had failed suddenly, leaving families stranded and routines shattered. Technicians worked non-stop, but replacements were scarce. Service managers faced impossible conversations. They had no timelines, no clear guidance, only apologies. Frustration filled waiting rooms. People missed work. Vacations were cancelled. Trust eroded. What had once been a mechanical issue was now a human crisis. And just when the tension reached its peak, the story exploded into the public eye. The revolt began with a single video. A stranded driver filmed their brand new truck sitting lifeless on the roadside. Within hours, thousands of similar stories appeared online. Photos of stalled SUVs, screenshots of repair bills, and videos of tow trucks went viral. Forums that once praised GM's performance now overflowed with anger. Owners shared breakdowns, near misses, and emotional pleas for help. What had been isolated incidents merged into a national narrative of betrayal. News outlets took notice. Reporters interviewed affected families. The story spread across television, radio, and social platforms. GM could no longer control the message. Investors reacted quickly. Analysts began questioning the company's financial exposure. The word bankruptcy crept into conversations, not shouted but whispered. Shares wavered. Bonds showed signs of strain. Confidence weakened. Competitors moved fast. Ford and Stellantis launched aggressive campaigns targeting displaced customers. Incentives multiplied. Trade-in offers surged. Across the ocean, Chinese automakers saw opportunity. BYD and SAIC accelerated their expansions, undercutting prices and promoting reliability. What began as a defect in one engine had now triggered a global power shift, and the world was watching. At first, the consequences felt distant, buried in technical reports and factory shutdowns. But soon the ripple effects reached everyday life. Even drivers who had never owned a General Motors vehicle began to feel the impact. As production slowed and inventory tightened, dealerships quietly adjusted prices. Sticker tags rose to protect shrinking stock. What once felt negotiable now felt fixed. Buyers who expected choice found empty lots and longer wait times. Insurance companies followed the trend. As breakdown reports mounted, risk models changed. Premiums increased across entire vehicle categories, not just recalled models. The cost of ownership climbed, and families absorbed the difference without ever seeing the root cause. Repair delays stretched from days to weeks. Rental fleets thinned. Transportation routines collapsed. Parents missed work. Small businesses struggled to meet schedules. The hidden cost of the crisis surfaced in missed opportunities, lost time, and growing frustration. The used car market shifted as well. Vehicles that once felt affordable became scarce. Prices climbed sharply, squeezing low-income buyers who depended on reliable transportation. What began as an engine defect transformed into a financial burden shared by millions. Investors felt the strain too. Retirement portfolios tied to the automotive sector wavered. Pension managers adjusted allocations. Analysts debated whether this was a temporary disruption or the beginning of a structural shift. And beneath all of it lay a deeper question. Could General Motors recover fast enough to compete in a rapidly changing industry? The automotive world is standing at a crossroads. Electrification is accelerating. Autonomous systems are reshaping transportation. Global competitors are redefining affordability and innovation. And in the middle of this transformation, General Motors finds itself fighting not for dominance, but for survival. The L87 crisis has exposed vulnerabilities that extend far beyond one engine. It has revealed how tightly connected modern manufacturing truly is, how a microscopic flaw can ripple through supply chains, financial markets, and global politics. GM is responding. New partnerships, battery investments, and strategic pivots are underway. But the pressure is relentless. Rivals are moving faster, customers are less forgiving, and trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. Some analysts believe this will become the moment GM reinvents itself. Others warn it could mark the beginning of a slow decline. No one knows which path lies ahead. What is certain is that this crisis is far from over. The next chapter is being written right now, in factories, boardrooms, and driveways across the world. And the outcome will shape the future of mobility for years to come. So what do you think? Is General Motors headed for a comeback or a collapse? The story is still unfolding. Once again, thanks for watching this video. If you got something out of this, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. And hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Agree, disagree, or something in between. I'd love to hear it.